And scriptures.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the FS On Air podcast. I'm your host, Jornk, and with me as always I have Proteus.
What's up, everybody?
And today we are discussing the And Scripture Film Festival. It is a yearly event we have around June, and yeah, this was our fourth installment of it.
Kind of crazy that it's already been 4 years since we started doing it, but I'm glad it's become an annual tradition as we all get to share off our skills and creativity.
I agree. Now it's always something I look forward to. But before we discuss that, we would like to recap some of the general events going on FS. And you know what? We've been pretty productive lately.
I only noticed yesterday that we just wrapped up 2 big things on the MFS side of things, so it almost felt like nothing had happened for a while, but that's just because we had had 2 things going for so long, and it's fitting that the 2 things that just wrapped up were Tangled Webs and Your Jornk Cut, especially considering we had a whole double feature episode with those 2, so them finishing the same day as we hoped for in that very episode was extremely fitting.
To finish 2 SPAM projects on one day, pretty awesome, but you know, just to see those projects themselves wrap up. Like, I won't toot my own horn. I'll just talk a bit about Nigerian's project. Nigerian's project easily one of the best I've read, in my opinion. Did a spectacular job. You know what? Please give him some clout. And speaking of clout, give some to Chucky for making those excellent Jornk Cut credits. I remember when that first came out, I watched that for 5 hours. It was pretty good.
The credits for both of those are both incredibly well made, but for the Jornk Cut ones in particular, I can really appreciate how similar it is to the actual movie and the hand-drawn notebook style credits. That was really well done. I don't know how he did it, but heck, it looks pretty dang good.
Also, on FS Plus, Scream has returned after having a brief hiatus. Scream is, of course, Bruce Liu's project based on the property of the same name, of course.
Yes, it had been gone for a little bit, but that, along with his other hit FS Plus show, Fast Times in LA, is also back from a short break. So be sure to go out and support those when you can. Always important to do that. And of course, Legion Lost returned after a little bit of time due to some delays after the previous episode. Always good to see that, and that's what ended off on a very, very interesting note indeed, in my opinion. So be sure to read up on that for the next one, because you don't want to miss it.
You don't want to miss it.
And now I think we can get into the shorts as usual that we had at the festival, like we usually do, and I think we had a pretty solid collection. We actually thought we were going to have less than usual this year, and then ended up having more shorts this year, which was kind of funny. So without further ado, let's get into those. First, of course, we had The Apartment by Senna0202, and you'll be seeing that name a lot later, of course. Spoiler alert. But I thought this was a pretty interesting one. Space Destroyer Shimikaze, which ties into the Space Battleship Yamato series, was supposed to be his short film from last year, but he didn't have the time, so it was delayed till later in the summer, but that still ended up being pretty good, so all is well with that. And he was actually worried he wouldn't have the time to do one this year, but I'm glad that he found the time.
Time is always time.
With the very simple setup he's got here, I think it's pretty effective and very emotional.
Yeah, certainly.
It's very introspective, and the descriptions actually help set up the almost hauntingly dreamlike picture that it's going for, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I thought this was a very spectacular start to this year. Such, a niche little concept, but, Santa manages to pull in a lot of this nostalgic emotion, a lot of the feelings that come with that. I like to say he captured a very, specific feel with that apartment setting, his descriptions and expressions from other characters kind of let us feel as if we've, like I said this in my review, but I said it kind of made us feel as if we've lived and experienced the same events within that apartment. It's kind of like the same vibes you get when you have a cabin you always go back to. If anyone can relate to that.
Sadly, can't relate to that because I don't feel like what you mean. Like a cab is in like a taxi, right?
No, I meant like a cabin, like you at a beach or something.
Oh, a cabin. Oh,
Not a cab. I've only.
I was gonna say I don't live in a big city, but I wish I could relate to that. And how would you identify the same cab? Anyway, don't. I'm an idiot. Just that's what that comes down to. But I think we can all say that the apartment taps into something we can all relate to. Just the fear of the relatives that we love growing old, and the sadness that we have of seeing the places that they call home eventually going into someone else's hands, even when we have memories that we create there. I think it especially hits home with all of the flashbacks and details that we see of all the parties and events the characters of this have in this one same spot. It was very relatable to me because my grandmother was in a similar situation in the past couple of years. You can tell it comes from personal experience for him as well.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more there. Also, a little bit of a shout out to the fan casting he did. Was not expecting some heavy fan casting here, but we got it, and it's quite good.
Indeed. And of course, next we have City Angel by, well, would you look at that?
That was mine.
It's our good friend, Mr. Jornk. Why don't you tell him about your short?
Yeah, I'll tell them a bit about it. You could see it as a sort of continuation in the Kid Icarus game franchise, a franchise that has only sadly had 3 games. The NES one on the Game Boy, and then Uprising, which is probably its most popular entry. Let's not kid ourselves. It follows Dark Pit, which is a replica of Pit from the games, and within a city, kind of acting as a vigilante of sorts, and tracking down a gang and its sources.
I thought it was a pretty interesting idea to take a character like that, whose characters are mainly from like a sort of otherworldly mythical setting, even if it is, at least in Uprising, very comical, and sort of put him in a fairly average city kind of setting. I thought that concept was pretty interesting. How did you think to do that, if I might ask?
Well, I was thinking about, of course, Kid Icarus, and kind of ideas I could go off with writing. I want to do something with Dark Pit because, well, not only because of how I thought it would be interesting to see his character interact in just human society, because, while human society does exist in Kid Icarus, it's not like it's very briefly touched on. It's not like a huge focus of Kid Icarus, but I thought like getting someone like Dark Pit and getting him to interact within that world would not only be pretty fun, but it would just be kind of cool to have this whole mix of mythology meeting, modern society. I really like concepts like that, It's a fun way to turn ideas on their head. And I especially thought it was fun to do that with Dark Pit and Medusa. Just kind of seeing like if it's also you can also kind of see as a fish out of water thing, and maybe not quite to the same level as a movie like Thor, but to some degree.
I think that works, and especially realistically, you could have just centered it entirely on Dark Pit's perspective, but the inclusion of Steph as an everyday person who realistically has no idea that his roommate isn't just a little reclusive and edgy. He's a lot more than that. I think his inclusion actually really helps. It kind of makes the whole concept work in a way because it shows you the more realistic side of things, while Dark Pit is thinking about when he had the ability to fly and conversing about not wanting to do, I guess, what others would consider his proper duty.
Yeah, no, Seth, I felt like it was important to include a character like Seth for Dark Pit to interact with. It's important to not only for him to get a different kind of perspective, but kind of to see how these people would react to someone like Dark Pit just living around with them. Of course, Dark Pit doesn't exactly tell them the whole I'm an angel thing and I'm out here killing gang members, but just the way he acts, and how he's not exactly used to socializing like that. It's usually his means of socialization are very different, and are very different from the kind of dynamic he has with Seth, and that was really fun. Seeing it was fun to think, how would Dark Pit respond to certain things he says? How would Seth in turn think about that, and how would their relationship progress?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad you were able to put that all together and make it really work. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
And then, would you look at that? It's another one from one of your boys, me, the Midnight
Proteus.
Train.
Midnight Train from Proteus. Now, in the same way that I gave a very brief summarization of my short, would you like to do the same for yours?
Yes. I will preface this by saying I originally started out with a completely different idea that I'm probably going to reuse for the Halloween event. It was horror themed and was an idea that sort of popped into my head. It's a very common trope of horror films, but I thought I could throw an interesting new spin on it, but we'll see what happens here. This is more of an attempt at drama. I guess it's a short film, like I've said before, despite the fact that the title would make you think that I was listening to the song everybody knows by Journey, Don't Stop Believing. I was like, oh yeah, I can make that a short, but I actually only remembered, oh yeah, I should make a joke about that at the end, because the opening lyrics to that song are pretty iconic in pop culture. I was actually listening to the ending song, The Ride into the Midnight, when I was trying to figure out what my new idea should be, because I realized that other one probably didn't fit this event perfectly well, or at least not completely. I can't exactly explain how it came to me. It just sort of popped up in my head. These two people who have tried for a long time to make a relationship work and completely failing over and over again. And then what would happen when they get to the breaking point and they have to sort this entire event out in the span of 45 minutes while one of them is waiting for the last train to take them to who knows where, for the start of a new life completely apart from that. Essentially, it's just me exploring the fears, concerns everybody has about that sort of thing, and how easy it can be to feel like you can't fix those things when they happen, but also that if you put the work in, that it is very easy to keep love alive, like I said.
No, and I think you did an amazing job on it. For those who are both in and out of the closet of sexuality, I guess you could call it. It's a very difficult and emotional issue, right? And it's very and events kind of like the ones you portrayed are not uncommon, right? They can't tell the exact truth, where they don't really know how to respond properly. There's going to be some emotional turmoil there. The whole part of the train, the whole the last one that's going to leave. I feel you could look at it as kind of a representation of that tension. Are you gonna get on it, or are you gonna get off? In a way, you can kind of see that as, are you gonna make this work, or are you just gonna leave in the shadows and it's never gonna be touched on again? And it's, as a white straight guy, maybe I'm not the best person to speak on this, but I feel like there's never really there's never always one surefire solution to this. But the idea that you said of not looking at you as your mistakes in the past as your identity is just a great thing to support.
Right. And no, I think you're fine to speak on it, speaking as someone who, has not lived this exact scenario, but knows a little bit about it from that perspective, at least. That's a very common fear most of us have. And so I wanted to approach it from that angle, especially considering that, the fear a lot of people have when it comes to things like this as well. Maybe if it's going this poorly, it would be best to just not bother with it, because it will only get worse if it's not really meant to be, particularly when you're dealing with essentially that, when you're talking about honest mistakes, these things will happen. And, especially when you're young and you expect these things to be just fairy tale kind of things, particularly if you're a hopeless romantic type, then you'll probably just see something like this as a sign that maybe it's just going wrong. Realistically, they'll be on a smaller scale if it's, a regular thing. My thoughts are that these guys are both probably in their mid to late 20s, so like they're adults, they can think more rationally, but there's still a little bit of that youthful naivete about that sort of thing.
Exactly, and I feel like I definitely feel like you did a great job representing that. Of course, while it's not as incorporated to the core message you're putting out there, the music you selected and the little photos you included of what the world's like, I think they very much fit to kind of for the presentation aspect. So that's always appreciated, And take this from me, someone who's always thinking about picking the right music to fit the vibes. I feel like I feel like I did a lot more of that this year. Like it took a lot longer search-wise. So, I needless to say, I appreciate when it comes together well.
I appreciate that, and I guess realistically I expected somebody to tell me this because, I didn't need to have the kind of presentation, but considering I was listening to one particular kind of music when I came up with the idea, I figured I might as well go with that. But obviously, I'm not going to just attempt to shove that into everything. That was just kind of the mood I've been in, but I think I'm getting that a little bit out of my system, even though I'm still a big fan of the, retrowave micro genre. But I think that's enough on that for me. I think we've taken enough of your time. Obviously, we encourage you to read the shorts if you haven't.
One disclaimer, please do read the shorts, all of them, and always feel free to give your thoughts on them. We try to believe us when we say we appreciate the hell out of it.
Absolutely. And we should definitely reiterate before we get to the winners part, even if your short didn't win, that reflects nothing about its quality. Realistically, we have had all bangers for the most part.
Yeah, don't look at yourself as a loser or lesser than anyone, just because that's just not the right way to look at things here. Everyone did great.
And next we have a very interesting one. I remember how funny this was because it was originally posted wrong. We forgot some details and then we had to go back and repost it, but it was still just as funny the second time.
Yeah. Entitled.
This short is by Invalid Twink. I should specify that, I almost forgot to. They had came to me and asked if this little concept they had was good. And it was the serious version that they mentioned where it's talking about identity. In a cyberpunk sort of setting. And then they just decided to make this, which I'm not disappointed by because it's funny, even if the other one was pretty good as it is. I didn't expect it, but that's probably what makes it even funnier. As I said in my review, my favorite line of dialogue being, "Your name is literally Looney, yeah, and what about it?"
Untitled, truth be told, I do not know how to summarize this one. How would you summarize it?
The best way I think I could probably describe it is that it's just kind of a meta comedy. That's probably the best way to do it because it references events it references actual people and actual FS stuff. But I like it a lot for what it is. It made me laugh. That was the goal, so I think it succeeded.
Yeah, no, it definitely succeeded. If I were to pick a favorite part of this, I think just the way Looney's introduced, it's so abrupt, and I think it kind of works in that hilarity. It just being introduced so abruptly. It's like, yep, there's Looney, and then Looney gets to Looney shit as Looney would. So all in all, it was a good time. That one is not too long, but it didn't need to be. So if you just need need a little bit of a quick meta humor pick me up, Untitled definitely the way to go.
Definitely. And speaking of Looney, next, coincidentally, is Rain-Ida by Looney.
Rain-Ida by Looney. This one is based on the Owl House cartoon. It's a Disney cartoon that, just like many Disney cartoons, gets shat on by the fucking people who run the television shows, so then they have to end it early or whatever. Look, that's irrelevant. But it's a pretty damn good show, and Looney kind of did here was write a quote-unquote secret episode of such sorts, you know?
That was its best aspect in my opinion, because like admittedly I'm still very much getting through it and I haven't seen everything yet, but even from what I know about it, it very much feels like an episode that would fit right into the cartoon from the writing and presentation, and all the characters talk exactly like they would talk in the show, which is the best part of it.
I think what's also impressive is there's this part where references the shorts he made in the past years, right? Through the characters, but it never feels like it's out of pocket or like there's something they'd say out of character. It still feels totally in character. It definitely, and I know I've said it 100 times on the servers where I'm like, yeah, this feels exactly like the best of an Owl House episode. And it's always great to bring in Ida to kind of like look more into their relationship. It really is a great relationship, both into their past and in the present of the show. And I think Looney was the perfect person to cover this kind of relationship and take a look at another entry in their lives. It's fun, it's fun. We like that.
Very well agreed, and I especially liked the last big battle between Ida and the evil school officials.
Yeah.
Who trying to keep a good witch down.
Yeah.
Very heartfelt dialogue in that part, and the action's really fun too.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what a not as informed individual of Owl House would comment on it, but based on the reception, seems pretty good. Even those who were not as knowledgeable of Owl House liked it. That is always a good sign of adaptation.
Yes, I agree with you on that one, and I give them a hand for this one because I really, really enjoyed this one. I know that they had mentioned that they might do this when they were considering what to make a short about, but who better to focus such a fun little story on this than the absolutely iconic Ida Clawthorne.
Yeah, Ida Clawthorne.
And next we have They Call Me Sonic by Jedu. Now, if you know what show he runs on FS Plus, Sonic the...
It's Sonic!
Not the fast food restaurant, the Blue Hedgehog, but close enough. And this is a prequel to that, and I thought it was interesting because, as it turns out, it combines several attempts at creating a canon origin for the character into one. You've got some stuff from the comics, you've got some stuff from Sonic Underground, you've got some stuff from older games. It's all here, baby. And it's pretty fun and entertaining. The action scene at the end I could have dealt with being a little bit longer, but hey, I'll take it because this was pretty fun and pretty satisfying, honestly.
Yeah,
I liked all the little ideas that are peppered in here.
I remember getting a little bit of a hearing from Jedu earlier, this is months back. What happened was he kind of told me about this short, and I was like, oh wow, he's already prepared, and here it is in all its glory. Just say it's
Agreed. My favorite part was when Robotnik was willing to kill a child just for accidentally bumping into him and making him drop his paper.
I love those little bits of characterization. My favorite thing is he's first talking to Alina, and you're like, oh, Robotnik doesn't seem so bad. Maybe he's a little bit passionate, but he's not that bad. And then he's like, kid bumps and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this kid.
Not to mention the dang cyborg robot lady he creates. Holy crap. That was right out of a horror movie, but I liked it a lot. It said before, but it kind of reminds me of the scene in Superman 3 when literally in real time gets her skin ripped apart and is replaced entirely by metal. Horrifying in the best way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So congratulations to him on that one. I think it's a resounding success in that regard. But obviously it would be. He's the real authority on the good old-fashioned Sonic lore, which goes far deeper than you would ever expect.
I show you how deep
Real rabbit hole. But speaking of horrifying, we have Silent Hill Graduation from the real connoisseur of horror on FS, Ruslu.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I haven't played as many of the games as I assume Jornk has, so he probably can speak more about it in terms of an adaptation of those games, but I definitely felt right based on what I do know and played about the series, and the atmosphere was certainly right, as was the music.
So just I don't think I could summarize all of Silent Hill as easily as I could maybe other video game franchises. Also, shouts to Roos and another writer who we'll get to soon. Just making video game projects. I gotta give them shouts, but Silent Hill is a huge part of the horror game history. It was an inspiration for several games. I probably couldn't touch on each of them. And Roos, I can definitely say Roos adapted this both faithfully and but like not just faithfully, but uniquely. Still managed to by what I mean by that is he still manages to have his own flair to it. It still feels like a Roos Lou project, right? And I think, and I talked about this with him as he was posting the lines, is that the Sinister soundtrack, integrating that, it's perfect with Akira's original music for the show. Just incredible way of integrating that.
Yeah, I definitely think he did a good job with that, and it captures perfectly what Silent Hill is all about. Like, when you get down to it, it's very simple, but once you actually get into it, there's a lot of depth to why that whole entire area is so messed up, the scars it leaves on people, and what's really causing the... I mean, it's definitely a bit simplistic to call it a haunting or entirely chalk it up to supernatural events, because it is just so much more than that, but yeah, he definitely captured the mood, the feeling, the purpose of a place like that. I didn't even understand the title until we got to the last part, but that entire final sequence is great, as are the 3 endings. You knew it was gonna go hard when insert disc 2 popped up.
Yeah, I like that detail.
But yeah, congratulations to him. I thought it was a really great short, perfectly captures the games. A good franchise to pick, I think, because I mean, like, it's only had like 2 adaptations, one decent movie, one not decent one. At least it's better off than other horror franchises like Resident Evil, which don't even want to. You can make a whole video essay on that, but.
This is borderline experimental.
Resident Evil.
That's not our job, is it?
Craziest franchise.
And now we have Leatherneck Raiders by Korg. Very interesting concept. I know he had mentioned a little bit about that he might want to do something set in this. I thought it was an interesting concept. I do remember some early skepticism to the idea, but I think they executed the idea pretty well. As you might tell based on some of the characters in it, it is sort of giving some backstory for good old Thunderbolt Ross as well as his crew during an intense battle in his past.
You guys know about that? Do you guys know about FS's Red Hole? It's an Easter egg. You gotta get into Chucky's secret NSFW chat to find it. May or may not exist. But no. Back to the short.
So what did you think about this actually?
I know at first Korg had a few, doubts, but I think there was no reason to have any doubts on this. It was written pretty well, especially for a franchise that I'm not sure many people would think you could write too many products on. That's not to say you couldn't, but it's definitely I'd say for a lot of people it may be a shock, but Korg managed to make it work really well. There was like the dynamic between these characters. There's I'd say the momentum. Like even like it was slower paced, but there's still a proper momentum to it, right? So we weren't just going at a snail's pace. If we were going slower, it was only to service the story, and I thought its momentum was very consistently done well. It was probably the best way to approach this, and I don't mean that in like it was the only thing they could have done because of the property. I mean that in like the best way. Also there's an Ura. There's also an Ura in there, so.
Yes, there is. And obviously, like I said in my review, it's Korg, so you're gonna get a great soundtrack, and you do. He makes fun of himself a little bit, calling it dad music, but hey, sometimes
Dad
dad
music.
music is dad music. I should definitely mention that the last part of the battle sequence was quite affecting. I found that pretty impressive. The way it ends is just kind of cold and it sticks with you a little bit. I was very impressed by that. So kudos to him.
Great ending. That was a great ending, Korg. I think that might have been my favorite ending I've ever seen Korg concoct for us.
Yeah, no, great stuff. And at least I'm glad we had more to talk about this time, because for some reason that I can't quite remember, we completely didn't realize that his shirt from last year.
Address the elephant in the room. How we didn't for like take the money and run. We didn't know it was a reference to actual real ass song, huh?
Yeah, we completely dropped the ball on that one. So
sorry.
I guess 1 year later we're.
Apologies to Korg. That I know this is for the other.
Yes.
Festival, but apologies to Korg. I hope you can find in your heart to forgive our lack of musical knowledge. It's gotten better now for both of us, but
yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that we tried to do our due diligence this time. So hopefully we made up for that just a little bit.
I'm waiting for like when this comes out. Chucky's gonna edit in like yes and. Proteus and Jornk don't know this is a reference to an audio drama written by Toshika Inouye.
Please. But speaking of Chucky, next we have
The Offer.
My offer.
I'm Mr. Jesus. Now, I know he mentioned that this is essentially a pared down and more, I guess, streamlined version of what he was going to do following this, I believe he said it was, from a much longer story where Lex does things like this just for kicks in the John Byrne Superman run. We tried to do our due diligence this time.
Wrong!
And I find that a very charming idea, that he will just go around promising to make people's lives better, and then find some way to completely ruin their opportunity. Although in this case, they were so pent up on deciding whether they should take the offer that he left before they could. So this was almost like a self-defeating thing in that way, but that's part of the game as well. He wants to just mess with their minds and think that this opportunity is just falling into their laps, but he had no intention of actually doing anything to make their lives better. He's like Luthor. Why would he want
He's a con artist.
He's an idiot. He's a con artist.
He's an idiot. He's a con artist. Love that video.
You are an asshole. Get the fuck out of here.
Get the out of here.
Yes. Get the fuck out of here.
He really is.
Won't wanna
He really
be
is the worst shark on Shark Tank, Mr. Lex Luthor. No, I know. And again, I know, like this was a little, this was, no pun intended, shorter than, the full idea Chucky had here, but man, it was still good. It was still good for being like a little more bite-sized. I mean, like shorts are already sort of meant to be like that, but regardless, he did a pretty good job. I feel like just like a tiny interaction like this, not even with like a superhero or anything, it was still a great way to show Lex Luthor's character. The dialogue, the whole thing, like I said in my review, like the end kind of implying that Linda's not really no more special than the rest of these people. Lex is going to be meeting up with. I think that's like just a great way of showing Lex's character. He is a dick. He will be manipulative if he has to. What they say: gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Lex lives by that code.
Indeed. And next is an interesting one, A Work in Progress by Mac the Milkman. I don't, this one's going to be a real short one
Very
because
short.
the short itself was A Work in Progress. But,
it was like
I
one
mean,
line.
one line, but I mean, at least it was a funny line. So, a good line to choose, if any. So, yeah, insert GIF of Kanye here saying, I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But I'll give him that. He committed to the bit, so
Into the
gotta
bit.
give him that one.
Yeah. But
And so
next we have a short by Noah. This one is The Weeping Woman. Now I will say I am a little unfamiliar with the source material pulled from. I'm not as savvy in it, but all things considered, that didn't make it any less of a good script to me.
oh yeah, totally. It was an interest. I actually didn't expect it because, like Chucky said, he didn't actually submit the entire doc and finished it like right before it aired because he always likes to keep things in private docs until they're like 110% ready. So we did not even. But we didn't know Zorro was gonna be in this until when he appeared in the short. So it was just as crazy for us as it was for all of you non-executive readers who got to witness that surprise. But no, I was really surprised by this. It's an interesting take. It's not the typical Zorro plot, but it's a combination that I actually think works pretty well. And how fitting that, jokingly or not, it is kind of like a Scooby-Doo mystery combined with a Zorro plot, and it actually really works it as both as a mystery and as that intriguing adventure story.
Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of his descriptions were pretty on point too. Like when it comes to plots like these, I mean, like with any plot in general, description is always important, but like I feel like the whole idea he had overall was very much enhanced by these descriptions, even if it were for characters who were nameless. Something that just kind of jumped out to me was how much detail he was writing with all this. And again, as someone who knows very little of Zorro, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, if it keeps me entertained, then I'm like, yeah, that's good. that may sound a little dismissive,
Yes.
but I assure you, I intend anything but. Also, Oscar Isaac was in here.
Yes, Oscar Isaac.
Reasons to watch Moon Knight.
flashback
Do you
to
remember that video?
Reasons, I was literally about to mention that. Reasons
Oscar
to watch Moon
Isaac.
Knight. Oscar Isaac. Oscar Isaac. Classic. A true hood classic. Next we have the very unique Raptor by Spider. This is kind of a mix of a whole bunch of different things. I kind of described it as Gurren Lagann with Doom but that was before what happens at the end, which I'm not going to spoil it, but
Yeah, we can't
it's
spoil it.
never exactly what you think. It's never what you think. And it's a very interesting premise. It kind of reminded me of a whole bunch of different things. It could be Gurren Lagann, it's got a little bit of Promare. Heck, it's probably got a little bit of Jujutsu Kaisen in there because there's music from the anime in there. There's a whole lot of stuff, and it actually comes together pretty well to feel very unique in its own right.
Agreed. Personally say that what jumped out to me was like the concept with the mechs and the demons, where the demons looked more human-like, but while the mechs looked more like a stereotypical devil, which I thought was an excellent choice. Also, kind of reminds me of Evangelion, where the creator of it designed Evangelions after Japanese Oni, so I kind of got that vibe too. And everybody knows how much of an Evangelion fan I am. My favorite movie is End of Evangelion, so I appreciate that stuff. But going back to this short too, I really liked the protagonist of this one.
Yeah, I think Win is actually very well developed, and you really grow to care about her as you see her go through her early years in training, and when she finally gets this big shot to join the main mecha crew that are defending against the demons. And like you said, it's very interesting that the demons are actually not the stereotypical horned devils with yellow eyes and barbed teeth and
Little ones.
red mottled skin, and they kind of just look like people. Like, that reminded. That's why I mentioned Promar, because I don't know that he was thinking this exact thing, because this is not exclusive to that, of course, but it reminded me of the scene from that where Gallo is taken into the cave of the Burnish as they try to heal their wounded comrade before ultimately deciding that he's too far gone and surrendering him to the fiery core of the planet, and he realizes that they're not these backward savages that the local city officials try to portray them as. They're just people like him.
Kind of ironic. I think I can work in like the metaphorical ways, but
Yes.
I think everything just comes together so well. You got this really neat concept, and then you have character of Wynn, what she had to go through, and now she's finally here, and then she makes this incredibly bold choice. I think like all of these just big concepts meld together, and what you get is a fantastic result.
And of course, then we have, quite the fiery discussion starter here. Godzilla in Hell by Brendan.
I don't even know.
You couldn't see
wait.
it, but Brendan is in quotations.
Because it wasn't Brendan who made this. I'm not even sure how we're supposed to discuss this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Obviously,
we like to keep it professional here. We don't like to get ourselves involved in petty gossip or anything like that. But let's just say this was actually written by a banned user. I will say this much: it was a well-written short for that.
Very well written.
But I don't really know what I'm supposed to say, since I'm a little disappointed, because I thought Brendan actually wrote something for once.
Yeah. Some people just use this as
I'm
slam on Brendan.
Now I'm gonna have. I mean, I love the guy, but if he ever actually says, "Oh yeah, I wrote something," I'm gonna have a couple questions next time. Like, oh really?
Next time Brendan says anything, like even if Brendan says, we went out to get lunch today, I'm gonna be like, was it you, Brendan?
I have a sworn
Was the band
statement
user who went and got lunch?
From you,
Tell me!
that this man
I'm
swore
gonna be
to
like that,
you.
honestly,
It was
but,
me.
Just to keep things,
Please.
keep things professional, I'll say it was very well written. Please refrain from starting any drama in the comments or live stream. I know some of you guys may do jokingly, but we genuinely ask that you don't do anything like that. We want to keep things civil here. And I'll just end off by saying it was a very well put together short. I cannot lie.
It was pretty cool, and I did like the ending part where you've got the mini angels and devils fighting, and then Godzilla betrays the mini angels
they're like,
from Mothra.
oh no,
Aimed at
Godzilla's-
him. That was kind of
Godzilla's
funny.
great, and Godzilla's like, nah, fuck you.
Consistent with the classic
Consistent with
Godzilla films.
Godzilla,
He's he's a force of nature, and that's it.
Average Godzilla behavior.
Average Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla.
And next, of course, we have The Glory of Dragons by Johnny T. Tears. This was really interesting, and admittedly, like I keep saying, I probably would have been able to fully immerse myself in it more if I actually knew more about Skyrim, although I felt better because, as Chucky and later Johnny clarified, this is essentially adding lore to some characters that you get hints of their past in the full game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which, I mean, I'm sure everyone here owns at least one copy of that game. Somehow it's only been ported to everything except a graphing calculator.
Yeah, pretty much. But this was you could definitely see the passion in this short. Now, Johnny, he talks a lot about Elder Scrolls. So I already knew beforehand he was big into it. But it really, I don't think it has ever shined more than in this short. This short is kind of just a glowing beacon of his appreciation for it, and it's not just fan service. It is a genuinely well-written short with a lot of great characters, some interesting little set pieces, if that is the word, and dragons. Now, I know some of you out there like dragons.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't like dragons, right?
It depends what the dragon is in context, but in this context, I would say yes. I do like dragons. Dragon D's nuts.
Got him.
To get that one out before Looney did it. Sorry, Looney, can't do it now. Ha ha ha! I got you. Ha. Looney probably did it earlier, anyways. Doesn't matter. No. To put that all aside, it was I feel like this is also kind of consistent with the other shorts we've seen some from Johnny in the past. Although, like, I do want to clarify, I think this one is I do like this one more than even his past shorts. I just want to say, like, the faithfulness and detail he has to Captain has always felt consistent to me.
I'll absolutely agree with you on that, and I think there's a lot of nice, subtle depth to all of the characters here and their interactions. Their dialogue sections can seem a bit girthy at first, but once you really get into them, there's a lot of nice emotional depth and consequence for what happens later. And like we keep saying, because I think all of these shorts have excellent conclusions, but the final battle is just this insane, grand, epic thing, and what else would you expect for something based on the Elder Scrolls? Very fitting.
You gotta have a fight like that. You gotta have a fight like that. And that moves us to our last short, a very moving short, if I must say so myself. Stuck on the Puzzle by Pwnecakes.
You know, I mean, it's just, considering it makes sense because it was based on his actual experience, but it really authentically captures what it's like to be institutionalized and wonder, you know, is there something wrong, deeply wrong with you? When are you gonna be able to just go back to your normal life? Am I gonna be here forever? You know, just those anxieties that you have and learning more about yourself in a very grounded and realistic way, because it doesn't dramatize it beyond what it should be. It's just it's authentic. It's presenting it as it is, and it feels like it's like a slice of life type of thing, just, you know, dealing with mental illness and its consequences and trying to process it while dealing with changes in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Pwnecakes delivered everything very realistically, very, you know, very genuinely. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, you know, the words from Brad there, you know, very, very, you know, not only just like genuine, but very heartwarming as well, you know. When he's telling Anthony, you know, about that strength within him, I thought that was very powerful.
I agree. The ending is just incredibly satisfying. It put a real big smile on my face.
Like, definitely want to mention that this is definitely an incredibly satisfying ending we got to the short here, I feel.
Indeed, and I'm glad that based on these experiences, that Pwn is in a much better place now, and it was very brave of him to relive some of this and confront it for writing this, but the end result is very much worth it, so I hope that he knows that he did a good job. And that concludes listing all of these shorts. Wow, we've spent a lot of time on that already, but it's necessary just to give you a little insight into all of them so that we don't leave any by the wayside. But now, of course, we have the winners.
That's right, and here we will talk a little more about the shorts, more specifically in relation to the awards they won. So, yeah. But before we get into the winners, we gotta discuss something about the day of the awards ceremony. A certain battle, I believe?
Yes, a battle between the Thinker and Elvis. Well, this was a battle I'm sure many wouldn't have been able to predict the ending of, or at least maybe they thought they would, but a truly iconic battle now that the Thinker has taken his place as the one that can solo your fave over on TikTok.
Negative diff, no less. Yeah.
Yes. And the results were that Elvis happened to win, but it was certainly not without quite a lot of wondering whether or not he would. And there were still some things that the Thinker took pretty easily, like he's always going to own this style.
Oh yeah, he's always going
you can't fight him on that one.
Do not lie, like, as good as Elvis is, Thinker will always own this sound.
And next we have Best Fan Casting, our first official short award. This was obviously a tough choice. I think FS Fan Casts have this reputation of being we all like to have stacked casts when we have an opportunity, and I get that some might see that as a bit unrealistic, but I'm not opposed to it, considering these are never movies that would actually exist, of course. But
it does always help when you know they're believable, of course. But you know, we always have a little more flexibility with this, I should say.
right, and so hopefully it goes as no surprise that best fan casting, although we certainly had great fan casts all around, went to Johnny T. Tears for The Glory of Dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got Henry Cavill as a dragon, I mean, that says it all right there.
That does. I mean, Henry Cavill's a dragon. I mean, that's pretty much, you know, and that is winner material, obviously. Okay, there's like a few other ones, but you know, that was definitely a standout. That was definitely a standout to me. I was like, yeah, Henry Cavill. Yeah.
The other runners-up being The Apartment with the iconic duo of Clooney and Cillian Murphy. Rain Ida, the voice cast for that show was obviously great, so you knew they'd be great here. And The Offer.
Which relates to our DC end of fan cast. Of course, there's Mark Strong's Lex Luthor, but we have, of course, had some ones here that just kind of aided in its nomination here. But yes, the Glory of Dragons won, and you can and as someone who's been getting to experience firsthand Johnny's fan casting process, I definitely know the effort he put into this.
Definitely well deserved. And so, of course, next we have.
This is my cue. We have best logo. The nominees for this were Rain Ida, Capture, City Angel, and A Work in Progress. The winner was ultimately Rain Ida with a very nice looking logo.
Yes, a very good logo. Now, as Rad said, a lot of these logos were designed by him because many people didn't choose to make their own. Yes, as did I, even though mine was boring. So, insert Obama giving Obama a medal.jpg. But he did a good job with that logo, and it is very fitting for the show. It matches the colors of the Owl House logo and theming, so very well done.
Definitely, it helps that Rad knows his stuff when it comes to the Owl House. So
very talented artist, that Dane Hunt. Next we have best quote. Now this one obviously was going to be a very heated contender because there's always that one raw quote from every short that you can take away from it. And so this one was a pretty heated competition this year. We had a great one from Spiros in The Apartment by Senna. We had one of the final quotes in Stuck on the Puzzle by Pone, a quote from The Offer by Chuck E. Cheese's, and the clap-worthy quote at the end of They Call Me Sonic by Jeddu. Ultimately, Pone won this one, and I think this was a pretty good quote. We can just slather that up on the screen.
Yeah. I think it's just incredible. I mean, not only does it, you know, tie back to the title, you know, just in its perfect way, but it's very true with the whole metaphor it's making, right? You know.
Exactly. It's a really good message.
The way I'm speaking with it, I can't really do it justice unless you read the project, but it's a really good quote, and you know, there's some other quotes that I thought were good too, but you know, this one definitely the perfect choice for best quote of this short. I think it was fantastic.
She wraps it all up in a nice little bow, and a good reminder that even if you think somebody's got it all together, we all have our struggles that we don't see.
Exactly.
Next, we have Best Soundtrack. So the nominees were Rapture, Stuck on the Puzzle, The Apartment, and Silent Hill Graduation. All with pretty banging soundtracks that fit their vibe and tone pretty well. But ultimately, Rapture won the award through the power of Mike Shinoda because Linkin Park, baby. It really went. I think the hard rock edge really fit the mecha action deal really well.
Yeah, the whole Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. I know Bear said he was going for the kind of vibes you get from an old YouTube video if Unregistered Hyper came to, like an MV. I know exactly what he means when he says that, so I thought that was pretty great.
But yeah, it was pretty good, and I really liked the soundtrack. admittedly, I'm kind of filthy because I don't always click on soundtrack links for projects. Either I don't remember or I'm already listening to something else for whatever reason, but like, I'm glad that I did for this one, as well as for several other shorts, but this one in particular really, really worked, hence why he won the award. And I know he was surprised that he won because he was just picking what he thought fit best, given that it's set 2008, but hey, it worked. And so next we have Most Unique Adaptation. Our nominees were City Angel, The Weeping Woman, They Call Me Sonic, and Leatherneck Raiders. All a great bunch of semi-original concepts, but ultimately we settled on City Angel as the winner. So now that you're here, Mr. Lonkett, you know, we can all agree you did a very unique take on the Kid Icarus mythology, and well, you know, just good job on it. Congratulations on the award. You deserve it.
And you know, while we're here, mentioning that award, if it's not too much of me, I want to ask, was there a certain element when reading that you thought was, I guess, you know, fittingly the most unique about this, about like concepts I introduced in this script? Like, what was like the most unique part of that I introduced in that script short?
I thought the most interesting part was how the way you sort of framed the way he uses the guitar case as the cover for his I guess gang fighting demon gang fighting gear, and then he tells yeah, and how he sort of uses the cover playing music and keeps up that lie, but he also feels that he should, even though in most instances he probably wouldn't care, he feels like he should generally support, you know, Seth doing the same and how much he really cares about music. And even though he missed out on one of his last performances for the most part, because, you know, he was in an epic action battle against his enemy, I thought it was sweet that he was able to tell Seth that he got to hear a little bit of his music and that he liked it. That was really nice.
Thank you. I'm again very glad you enjoyed it, and I am very thankful for this reward. It really, to me, it's a really great source of feedback from other people on their thoughts. So yeah, thank you again. And you know, speaking of great adaptations, before we get into best character, I gotta say, this was like tied for a while. Like, did you remember this?
Yeah, it was. Like literally, like they posted it out, but like the like it was agonizing. Like it was a tie for a long time, as the percentages. Yeah, I think up to 30% of the votes being in, it was still at a tie until it finally, and then it broke, and then went back to a tie, and then we finally got enough votes to have a victor out of all of it by the end of it.
Here's what's crazy. I remember like
it was crazy to watch it in real time, though. I can tell you that.
It's crazy. I remember waking up when like the thing was finally posted, the survey. And that's when I saw Chucky was like, by the way, so far it's completely tied. I was like, what? And then I remember voting for a character, right? And I was like, okay, well, after voting for a character, I'm sure we won't have any tie. We won't have a tie anymore. It's like, nope, still gonna be a tie somehow, which is very surprising. But you know, a nice indicator that, you know, people really did enjoy the characters here. But you know, at the end, we didn't get a mass tie. We actually had a tiebreaker, and it went to none other than Brad from Stuck on the Puzzle. And then in second place,
choice for best character in my opinion,
literally everyone else.
Yeah, everyone else just because for some reason, everyone chose a different character. Like it was literally like every single person who voted had a different answer somehow for a little while, which was crazy. But I think Brad was a pretty good character to pick for the best one because, you know, he's not just you know, like a supportive character that helps the main character through his tough journey through that institution, but it's also a very, you know, empathetic and affectionate portrayal of somebody with mental illness, and especially when you're talking about media featuring people in institutions, that is very uncommon. And so I was impressed with it, but I mean, it makes sense that he would, considering that was, you know, he lived that was his life for a little bit. And but obviously I can appreciate that a
I
lot.
just want-
And he's generally a great guy. He wants to help our main character through his journey of accepting the change in his life and knowing more about himself and how to deal with it.
Yeah, and if I just want to say real quickly, I have, like, over the years learned that people with mental illnesses don't really get great representation a lot of the time. People kind of look at these people like they're deranged Arkham Asylum patients. Like, it's unironically pretty terrible, but I think Brad was not only a great representation of, somebody with a mental illness, but, kind of just, I think it's kind of, he also kind of stood out to me as, like, not to sound like anesthesia here, but kind of like a symbol of hope that, even with all that a person can face, he can, keep fighting and overcome their demons and all that. So, yeah, just an excellent choice for best character.
Next, we have the most original premise. Our contenders for this one were Rapture, Stuck on the Puzzle, and The Apartment. And this one goes to Senna0202 for The Apartment. Well deserved, in my opinion. I was quite impressed with just the depth and the well-written dialogue. I think it really makes that one a great experience.
Oh yeah, certainly.
And like we said, it's unique, but it's based on a situation that I think most of us can relate to or easily understand. So, the perfect choice. We next have fan favorite franchise short. Now, this was certainly going to be interesting because we had a lot of franchise-based shorts this year. Our main contenders for this one being The Glory of Dragons, Rain-Eater, They Call Me Sonic, and Leatherneck Raiders. But The Glory of Dragons and Rain-Eater both won in our one and only tie, which is interesting because it seems like at these events there's at least two. I think the last
at the green
meetings had
meetings
at least,
especially.
there's at least
Green meetings especially, we tend to have ties. But this is our only tie, and just to point out, nothing wrong with tying. Tying's not a bad thing, but I feel like in the case of best character, like, it definitely would have been too much of a meme for if everyone was tied at once. Again, great signification that people enjoy the characters, but yeah, no. But aside, let's get back on topic.
both great representations of their franchises and both show real love and passion for them as well as just deep knowledge. So I applaud both Looney and Johnny for that dub, and
Both written by Frasier
seeing
fans.
them share the stage together was
Written by
phenomenal.
Frasier fans.
Yes.
And favorite original short is our last award. And we had quite a few nominees. There was The Rapture, Midnight Train, Proteus wrote that one, Stuck on the Puzzle, and The Apartment. The winner, ultimately, was Stuck on the Puzzle. Again, well-deserved.
Right, and I think that was definitely, well-deserved. Definitely deserved. Pone definitely deserved to win all these awards for just how raw and real that one was, and makes sense that this ended up being the fan favorite original premise award. So great job for that one, Pone, and congratulations to all our winners now that we've reached the final one. But that's not the only part of our Fan Scripture Film Festival.
Much more, actually.
We had some pretty juicy announcements too. So we'll start with FS Plus, since that came first. And I can get the first one out of the way since that is my own, and I'll try to keep it brief. But also I kind of have to because it's still in the concept phase, though I hope to have it finished by the ending of this year. Electronica, a science fiction project. Now I'll just be straightforward. This exists mainly because after about 2 years of wondering what to do with it, I kind of fell out of interest in We Are All to Blame for various reasons, and I wanted to do something different, so I chose a introspective science fiction thriller concept. As I explained at the awards, the idea is meant to be a twist on the classic Man in the Machine sci-fi plot, taking some inspiration from things like, Metropolis, maybe a little bit of Blade Runner for like the setting and for robot things. You could probably compare it to Alex Garland's Ex Machina, but it won't be exactly like that. The main twist is that, physically speaking, he looks like a human, he can age, but he was created to look like, someone who's in their like mid-20s, but his mind has not matured yet as someone who has gone through 20 years of aging would. So like mentally, he's still kind of a baby. So he's still got a lot to learn, and that will result in a lot of problems. And I thought that would be an interesting premise to tackle, but hopefully I'll have something good to cook up for y'all and show when that comes. And next we have, from Dane Hunt himself, a sequel to his short Bloodhound Chapter 2, Dirtbag. I think he had mentioned in passing doing this before, but I think it's a great idea because in the past we actually proposed many times that there would be sequels to shorts, and Jerry was going to do one for his first short, and that didn't end up panning out, and as I just mentioned, I was going to do a full film version of my short from FSFF 2020 with We Are All to Blame, but I also ended up losing interest in that. I can tell Rad feels passionate about it if after all this time he's still thinking about Bloodhound and wanting to follow it up, and that was a pretty great short, so I think that was a great choice to follow up with.
Agreed. I gotta say, I'm honestly surprised we had so much announcement content, but and that's more power to it, honestly.
Yeah, we've always got stuff cooking up in Fanscript. You never underestimate us. Next, also from Rad and Spider, something that has been sort of floating around as something that would eventually happen at some point, based on the Instahero RP. Instahero Incorporated joining the Meteor Tide universe, a show that will greatly expand it and get into how a mysterious company which sells people the potential to become superpowered individuals, obviously for a heavy price, as we will see, and like the RP, will give us the origin of the iconic Dane Hunt character, Phoebe.
A big icon in FS history, I think we can all say. I think that's she had some more underground origins, but she is a household name, if you can say that for FS. But I am looking forward heavily to it. I mean, Meteor Tide's already been hitting it out of the park, let us not lie, It's been pretty great. And now Phoebe's gonna be in here. Hashtag Year of Phoebe. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but I'm saying it. It's a thing now. Also, we have news of a cancellation, the return of a project, okay? Many pones, and in the end, it will unfortunately be canceled. For any of you who remember, this was announced back last year at the festival, with the short and in the end. Short, if I must say so myself. But have no fear, the return of Tranquility Base Hotel plus Casino will return. Wait, did I say the return will return? That's just bad grammar.
Yes, Tranquility Base Hotel plus Casino.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I'm too tired, and honestly, I need a little water to do that. I don't want to destroy my throat without that.
Yeah, I cannot do the full.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see, because it's been on a bit of a hiatus for a while, but it will be good to see that. Sadly, it resulted in Pone ultimately decided not to move forward with common theme here, the continuation of his short from Fanscript Film Festival 2021, and in the end, but more Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino will be more than worth
I
that.
think so too. It was already a super unique concept back when we were first given that taste of it at the very first FSFF. I might add, I think that's already pretty unique in itself, but looking forward to it, and I think all of you should too. And if you don't, I'm gonna come over there and I'm gonna kick you in the shin. It's gonna happen. I know where all of you live. Oh, by the way, Proteus, fun fact, the next announcement we have to make is something that you made.
Oh, yes. I have been playing this for a little while, but soon I am planning to release a full remastered, bit more polished version of Plasma Man Season 1 in the PDF, taking some inspiration from Page's excellently worded review of the series and some of Ruslu's to help fully flesh things out. And I can tell you right now, there will be a brand new bonus episode to help flesh out some of the pacing that I'm going to write and help everything flow hopefully a bit smoother than in the original. That was my first in the TV show format, so I'm still very proud of it. I obviously realized there was some work to be done to improve, and I'll be glad to do that and hopefully release the best possible version of it for y'all very soon.
Question. Will
Yes.
this also include a possible PDF release of Big Plasma Enough Before You Go?
Actually, I think I will. That
we
makes
move.
perfect sense. It would make more sense than Season 2, but I will get to that
of,
PDF
Chasm
in
Lizard
due
opening the
time.
canister and roaring, we move. Hold on.
Please. And of course, next we move on to DCFS announcements, starting with something Mr. Cheeses has been helping us cook up for a while, The Brave and the Bold, a series based on the DC Comics name, of course, not the Batman cartoon, although noted cartoon. It will be in the style of 30-minute TV episodes that take place across various parts of the DC universe with various characters written by various members of the DCFSU planning community, if you want to call it that. And I think that's something to look forward to. It'll essentially give us an opportunity to express ideas that wouldn't necessarily work for full-fledged projects and flesh out background elements and characters of the existing ones.
So basically, if we wanted to make a story that can actually happen in this universe, really couldn't fit it properly into a project, or it's just too short for that, well, here's your chance. It's there. Look at it. There it is. There it is, right there. I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna let us, experiment a lot with this and with the whole DC characters. I feel like that's a lot of fun. I know Chucky recently has been doing a lot of that too. I feel with Legion Lost. So yeah, it's gonna give us a big chance to do that as well. We have 3 more DC projects to talk about. Next is Aquaman.
The new Aquaman
Tide
film.
and Time. Wait. No, sorry. Time and Tide. I'm sorry. I'm lost.
The 2 T's. Try saying that 3 times
Time
fast.
and Tide.
But no, that's another one from me. And granted, I have been wanting to do this for a couple of years to show some appreciation for the character. Although, despite my historically documented appreciation of the 2018 film, this will be a very different version, as that was mainly based on the Jeff Johns Aquaman run from the New 52, and this will mainly be based on the Peter David run and have a bit more dark tone and some more mythological elements that I coordinated with the one and only Cage, writer of Wonder Woman Abyss, therefore in charge of all the Greek mythological elements. And so essentially this will be me explaining why Atlantis hasn't been seen in the DC FSU so far, along with all our Atlantean characters such as Arthur himself. And yes, he will have the hook hand. So no need to worry about that. The name actually comes from the sort of prequel comic series that he did prior to starting his main run on Aquaman by Peter David. I'm very grateful to the executives for making this logo for me a while ago. Actually, this was supposed to be revealed at Green Meanies 2021, but it was determined not to be appropriate for the slate at that time. But yeah, hopefully that won't be too far off from now, although I've certainly got a lot on my plate, and I look forward to hopefully making a fresh new take on that character for y'all. And I should probably also mention here that this is kind of sort of taking the place of what I would have done with the Batman, which I'm no longer planning on doing for a variety of reasons, but I guess ultimately I just decided I probably wouldn't make a script as good as the original version of that script, and I hope the Ben Affleck Batman script leaks one day, so hopefully you and I can all read it. But we should move on to our next subject by Chucky Jesus, Supergirl Red Angel. Why don't you tell them a little bit about
Yeah, so, to give you the incredibly simplified version of it, it is going to be a Supergirl focused project. Wow, I can't believe it. The name would not have given that away. But to be a little more serious, it'll talk about the time she became a Red Lantern, and according to Chucky, adapted very loosely, but using several elements of Peter David on Supergirl. Now, something that not a lot of people realize about Supergirl is that she's a little hot-headed. A little hot-headed. She's a lot more rash than Clark Kent, and it's no surprise that her becoming a Red Lantern incredibly fitting, and to adapt that is very interesting to me. I'm looking forward to that. Well, what's that meme? Stop the rage. I don't know what that meme comes from.
Yes, I think. And we also have a producer's note that Chucky forgot to mention this at the festival, but Supergirl Red Angel will in fact feature the return of Linda Danvers as Matrix, the protagonist of the Peter David run this is drawing from. Chucky was right that we certainly have the Peter David Grand Slam going on, but we will get into that more when we get to the MFS slate. And of course, also by Chucky, he's doing a PDF of Superman American Alien from all the way back in 2019. Sure feels like a decade ago now, doesn't it? But I think that's a great project to finally fully remaster and make the best version of. Yes, 2019.
Oh, that's
kind of crazy to think about, right?
That's a lot. Great project. Great project for yourself.
Indeed. And now we have Marvel fan scripture, which, coming back to me again, we have, and Spider, of course, couldn't discount him. We have the sequel to Fantastic Four Doomsday, Fantastic Four Invasion. Now, I have been looking forward to this for some time because, admittedly, it got some good responses when Doomsday had completed, but I felt generally I was a little worried that because of MW's involvement in the first half of the script and people having understandable apprehensions about how he treated Reed, I sort of felt like that would damage the future of Fantastic Four in the MFSU, but I'm glad that that's not the case because now me and Spider are going to be back with the sequel, which now deals with the Skrulls, a customized version of the Secret Invasion story that will be heavily modified for our uses for many reasons, obviously, because the original comic is focused on the larger Marvel universe as a whole rather than simply the Fantastic Four. And also to replace the interesting main villain of that series with the iconic Super Skrull that the Fantastic Four have gone against many a time.
In the chat. It's me.
Kind of crazy that the closest we've gotten to an adaptation of the Super Skrull in any live action movies when Johnny randomly had the ability to swap people's powers in the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie from 2000.
People online, whenever we talk about that scene, we would only call him Super Skrull Johnny. So I thought that one hard as hell. I love that. That was great. But now we're gonna go for the original Super Skrull, and that's something I'm looking forward to a lot. I mean, I think Super Skrull's a great character. I think the Skrulls already are really just fun conceptually. Oh wait! I'm getting news.
Apparently, Super Skrull was in the video game for Rise of the Silver Surfer. I have not played that video game, but perhaps I should. I hear it's actually decent.
To check out that game now, but we will talk about Fox X-Men another time. You guys can hold me to this. I will just bring it up in another podcast. You don't know which one. You can do it.
And then also I should mention Doomsday, since I just talked about it a little bit. That will be receiving a PDF soon. It's mostly complete, just a couple things left to do at time of recording, and hopefully you will see it soon to repair the damage done to the first half of it by MW and more fully reflect Jedu's take on the character, include a scene I forgot somehow, and just generally smooth out some issues that Chucky fairly brought up in his review of the film on MFS, but hopefully it'll finally be that fully realized version of the film we wanted it to be, but had some setbacks at the time.
Yeah.
And of course the Inferior Foes and Foes 3 PDFs. Very good stuff.
I can't wait to see the Inferior Foes PDF. That's gonna be hard as hell.
That's gonna be
also,
raw.
A surprise here. Invalid Twink has a a very vague project release, but we can tell you something. It's on a vampire.
Gonna involve
Let me say
vampire.
this. I'm not gonna say it's a Morbius project, but Val Twink is a big Morbius head. You know, a big Morbius head. But we don't know if it's Morbius. It could be it could honestly be anything. I'm really not sure. And Val Twink has a thing for kind of surprising us when we least expect it. So, but I'd like to bring up that they also are just very good whenever they're doing their projects. For example, Howard the Duck, great fucking show. I have absolute confidence in whatever they bring to the table here. Maybe it's Moreland. Hashtag Tom Cruise Moreland soon. We don't know.
Please.
Tom Cruise Moreland.
We should get Noah and Johnny to fan cast Moreland. Maybe they'll have some good ideas, but we'll see what comes from Invalid Twink's vampire project. That was quite unexpected but interesting to see. Can't wait to see it.
And another bit of development on progress. Hulk 2 God Gamma is actually moving up on the slate due to just how well progress is going on it.
Yes, Chucky and Jedhu have not been slacking on that at all, and they are going to provide us with some true Kino when they finish it. I've seen some of their ideas so far, and I can tell you, Peter David grants a lot, but it's also quite quality ideas that they've got moving through their leader-sized noggins right now, so you can trust that when it's fully realized, it's going to be something to behold, folks.
Definitely.
And of course, we had the full reveal of Daredevil, the Man Without Fear by Noah and
This guy's
Pedro.
crazy!
Full trailer. Great trailer by Chucky. A lot of restraint for not finding some way to fit in. This guy's crazy. Look, I mean, hey, it's a great use of some Batman music and some wild scenes. And definitely helped me realize why they chose John Goodman as the Kingpin. I didn't quite see it at first, I admit, but that trailer definitely helped me see it quite a lot more, especially what he says at the end there. I also like Zachary Quinto as Bullseye Bits, and Chiwetel Ejiofor as the new rising crime boss that is seeking to butt heads with the Kingpin. Great stuff all around.
Looking forward to it. Overall, pretty fun reveals we've gotten at this little midpoint for FS. So you good to see all this news. Can't wait to see it. But I think that,
and our last bit of news for the
right?
day will be the. No, we have one more thing we cannot forget. This is kind of funny because I almost forgot to let Bruce Lou speak at the festival because I thought we were done when Chucky said we were wrapping up, so it's kind of like cinematic parallels here, but we have one more thing. The announcement that the upcoming return of the Halloween short festival from last year will be this fall, and unlike last year, rather than having a few predetermined writers, it will be open to the public, and anyone who wants to submit a horror-themed short may do so. A very exciting prospect given how interesting that was last year, and it'll be interesting to see.
Looking forward to it, because it's kind of like another little film festival, really. With this specific theme, very curious on what some people will bring up. I guess we'll just have to see. I'm not rushing anything though. I want to enjoy the summer while I can. But yeah, I do look forward to it.
Don't want to rush through it. Although the heat waves are kind of making it hard.
That's true. But no, I know it kind of depends where you are, how the heat is. But overall, we can agree. Looking forward to this Halloween event that's coming up. And with that, I think that concludes everything for good. For real.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything you want to?
Before we go, though, I do want to say I did have one last thing. I obviously just wanted to congratulate all the winners again and encourage if you haven't read all the shorts that we listed here to go back and read them. They're all very good, and we gotta support each other.
I agree. It's the support of one another's writers and just friends. It's always helpful. Believe me, it always is to get feedback. Listen to what people are saying on this stuff. It really does help. So again, thank you for the reception this year. It's been great.
Yes,
and if you
really
guys
has.
haven't read the projects yet, I encourage you to do so. Leave your reviews, write them, whatever you want. I encourage you to do that. And you know what? I guess this is when I say I'll see you guys on the next Angry Joe show.
And we'll see you guys next time, although hopefully we won't be that angry. And yeah, goodbye.
Bye. Where's the Craig button?
I gotta find the command.
So, as Proteus tries to find that, I have to unveil a few things. So, the Spider and Chucky, they have a secret room called the Kill Room, and that is where they kill anyone who opposes FS. And